What is up, future millionaire? So today we are talking with a good friend of mine, which you guys know we talk together quite often, which is Scott the Investor. And so today, this is the second episode of the DeFi Passive Income Hour. And pretty much what we do is talk everything DeFi passive income, strategies, questions you guys may have, and potentially some newer projects that you guys have as well. So before we get going, though, go ahead and let us know how the audio is coming in and then how the video quality is coming in as well. Scott, can you hear me okay, brother?
I can, definitely.
All right.
Looks like we're getting some stuff coming in with the chat. A few people commenting, so
Crypto Watcher just love to collabs with these two guys. I like them, but don't tell them I said it. So how are you? We got Gabe C always showing support. Hey, the investor team. We got Crypto Pride. Let's go. So I kind of started this whole thing, Scott, if you don't know, just to kind of communicate and be a little bit more personable with the community, right? Because a lot of times, you know, we make our pre-recorded videos and then sometimes it's nice to have like a live stream setting. But also I wanted to have a live stream setting that made sense, right? That people would want to be into, people can kind of interact with each other as well. So this was kind of the whole process of that, since we're always talking about how to make passive income in the DeFi space.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I just think there's a lot of us out there who have slightly different opinions, and if we can collaborate on the channel, I think it's nice. It's nice for people to be able to ask questions. I mean, a lot of times it's difficult to answer questions and have people felt heard if they're just commenting in your comments and you're trying to, just answer them under your videos. It's nice for people to be able to tune in. We're all in a lot of similar projects, and so there's questions or people just want to hear it live. It's a different vibe.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then for me, it also helps me to kind of build up that live stream audience, because you guys know I don't go live that much. And so a lot of people is like, is Mike even really live? You know what I mean? So when people start to get more familiar, like, all right, okay, he's going live more.
And so it makes a difference if you go live a little more consistently, like we saw Lee over at 𝗟𝗘𝗗𝗏. He started going live consistently, and he'll get a couple hundred, sometimes 300 people on a live stream, which is a lot of people to hold attention for an hour or whatever.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And so I know we have the Drip AMA Forex Shark coming up here, like literally at 3 p.m. my time.
Yeah.
So within the hour or so. So we're going to try to make this as easy as possible and a nice transition into, because I know a lot of people that's on the live today is probably waiting on that AMA as well. Because,
for sure, yeah.
Some of the new utilities. So before we even do that, let me see if I can go ahead and briefly show people what we're expecting to hear about, right? So if you look right here, can you see this, Scott?
Yep, I can see it. We're good.
Awesome. So if you look right here, you can see Forex is talking about, let me blow this up a little bit on my side. Forex is talking about new Drip UI, which we already know how that looks, fiat on ramp. Now, what I'm curious to know about is the cross-chain functionality. That has me intrigued. And then we have the airdrop system that will be improved as well, which he talked about, which will basically allow us to airdrop the team all in one click instead of having to do it separately. And so what are your thoughts on this, Scott, about of course we know about the Drip UI, the fiat on ramp, but the cross-chain functionality? Like, I'm curious on what that can even look like, right?
Yeah, so I don't know the inner workings of it, but I know the 𝗚𝗥𝗔𝗕 guys were working on something similar to this for a while, and I know that some of those original 𝗚𝗥𝗔𝗕 guys were big Drip guys, and so I know they like Forex and are fond of him and in his projects and stuff. So it could be something similar to that. It just allows you to buy Drip across chains, and so there's some people that don't like the Binance Smart Chain, which I personally is like my favorite, but the other ones that could be used. So, but I don't know how that'll be implemented. I just remember the 𝗚𝗥𝗔𝗕 guys talking about it way back in the day, so I know it's like it's a theoretical possible thing. I don't know other projects have done something similar, but my big question is, okay, if once they get that in, will that how much will that help? With that, it's a cool feature for sure, but will it bring some other people over? And the fact is, I just frankly don't know. I don't know exactly how the functionality will get rolled out, and then if there's like a big group of people that are just prefer to work on other chains, which I'm sure there is. I'm a BSC guy. It's my favorite chain to work on. Anytime I have to switch something over to Phantom or I had to do something on Polygon the other day. Anytime I'm switching chains, it's frustrating me. So I'm sure other people are maxis of other chains, and they're frustrated. They'd much rather just buy drip on theirs and on their preferred chain and then use it. So I'm interested to see what kind of adoption that would have. But it's just another cool feather in the cap, if you will. But I'm excited of all this stuff. The new airdropping system will be super helpful for team leaders because when you're doing airdrops to say like 20 people, you got to approve those transactions one by one.
Yeah.
A long time. And I know a lot of people when they're first starting out airdrop the whole team. So if they've got 20 drip and they've got 30 people on their team, they airdrop it to every single person equally. So they're clicking all those buttons. I don't have time for that. So normally I'll do the random 5 or 10, it'll randomly pick 5 names for me. And then I'll just go to the 5 because I can't be doing every one. I mean, it would take for some people I know. I think I remember one of Crypto Mischief, Richie, one of his videos a ways back. He was airdropping like 150 people or some. He's like, it took me 4 hours or whatever. I'm like, oh man, sounds like a nightmare. So that'll be super helpful. But for me, I mean, I don't know which one of these is the coolest, but for me, all of them are good. We just need to show progress that the drip project didn't get forgotten, that, we've just had other priorities in the animal farm and everything. So, I think as long as new developments are coming out on a fairly regular basis, people are going to say, okay, he didn't abandon this project. It's not only about the animal farm now. He's just coming back to it. It's going to move in cycles. So any new development, I think, will be good for the ecosystem.
Yeah, definitely. And one thing I do want to mention as well before we kind of talk about a few other things is the video you made regarding kind of the whole new campaign about the burning drip. Now, and it wasn't that you were coming at the system by by any means. It was just you were making it plain, as in it's actually sending it to the tax vault instead of actually burning the drip, right? And so kind of talk about that. Of course, I think we've seen an effect on keeping the price a little bit more stable, allowing more drip to be in the tax vault, which helps with when a lot more people are selling compared to buying. So kind of talk to me about what is your thought process on that? I think it's great to see the community, definitely with a project that's almost 2 years in, to be able to come together and do this. So I definitely think it's a positive, and it shows the strength of the community.
To get enough people on board and to get some of the whales on board, and because a lot of those whales could just go away and considered excellent liquidity and they're done, but a lot of them are hanging in there. So just in general, for the people who don't understand the concept and the point of my video, that was like a comment that someone posted on my videos about it's not burning the drip. It's just this elaborate lie. Like it's not burning the drip. So if you burn a token, you're taking it completely out of the supply. It basically ceases to exist. That's not really what's happening here. And that's, for the most part, that's not really what we need. What we need is, if we keep burning tokens and everything keeps going, then we still got to mint new tokens. What this is you're just sending that money to the tax vault. So the tax vault doesn't have to mint additional tokens. It just slows that down. So it's a very temporary fix, but that's really what it's meant to be. Like, we're just trying to give Forex a time to catch up with some of the developments, get some of this stuff out that's been taking a little while. Then the new developments, the project can take over on its own. People start to get excited because they're dumping money into scratchy lotto tickets, or they know layer 2's coming or whatever. You start to build some hype around it. When nothing's happening at all, we basically have to take it upon ourselves as a community to decide, hey, do we just want to continue to watch it go down, or should we do something to breathe some life into it, to give us a few weeks and give Forex a little bit of time? And I think that's, in a nutshell, basically what's happening here. It's a nice temporary solution. It's good to see the community just rally and get together, and everyone try to play their part if they can afford it, if they can do it. And it does make a difference. It does help, but it's a temporary boost for us to say, Forex, hurry up, we need some additional development as quick as you can get it. But for now, like, we'll take this on, because Forex doesn't owe us anything. And one of the greatest upsides to drip is that there is no dev fee. So Forex just did it out of the kindness of his heart and ego to develop something cool for the masses. but he's not benefited from drip lasting. Like if drip dies tomorrow or drip lives for another 2 years, there's no financial benefit at all for Forex. So that's a good upside because, of course he doesn't take a dev fee, but also a downside because it takes away some of his motivation. So in a way, the way I see it is it's the community kind of saying, you've done a lot for us. We want you to keep developing. Let us buy you a little bit more time, keep this project afloat, and wait for some of these new developments to drop, which sounds like today in the AMA that there's at least going to be some updates and on what we've got for drip, and then also some stuff for Animal Farm. So
yeah. And to kind of comment what you said about how there's no dev fee on drip, right? And how he's not getting anything on the back end for drip success. And so to kind of talk about that a little bit, in my opinion, and tell me what you think about this, Scott, and also the community, but in my opinion, I think you're absolutely right. But I also think the success or potentially the longevity of drip, I should say, does indirectly kind of help Forex in a sense. And the reason why I say that, not as like a financial standpoint, but far as more of a massive standpoint, for a credibility standpoint, for more of a bringing more people into the project, because they can say, hey, he's been able to do this, it survived this long, and he never took a dev fee. And he also has other projects that are, you know what I mean? So indirectly, I think it has a big effect in some ways, right?
Totally. Yeah. I think it's both other people's view of him, and then also his view of himself. It's his legacy. So if drip lasts 3 years instead of 2, it's better for him. If it's 4 years instead of 2, it's even better for him. So I think a lot of it is part of it is that, like with all great visionaries, he has an ego and he doesn't want it to die, because that's just one more arrow for the fudders to say, oh, you couldn't even make this project last or whatever, even though it's lasted longer than any other project out there and made more millionaires than any other DeFi ROI protocol out there. So it's far and away the most successful one that's ever existed thus far. And but it's like, kind of reminds me of like people who like top tier athletes, right? It's never enough to just break the record so you're number one. They want to try to break enough records to where it's almost unachievable to get there. You know what I mean? Like, is anybody going to get as many rings as Tom Brady? Maybe never in the history. It may never happen. So it's like, why is Tom Brady still playing ball? Like, if he ended up winning another ring, it just pushes that much further out. I think some people are just wired that way. So in Forex's mind, I think he's probably not too much different. I think he wants to be he wants to set a record that's like almost unachievable to beat. And, part of that's ego. And then part of that, of course, will indirectly help any future projects or even this project. Like, name any other project that's got even close to drip. Sure, the price is down a ton. There's other variety of factors. Some of it is self-inflicted, just with the delays and everything. Some of it's external, like this massive bear market and everything else crashing. But all those factors together, I mean, I think it's still alive. And so, you know what I mean? And there's some new stuff coming this year that should be really good. So I've got high hopes for drip in the future, and it will indirectly benefit all his future projects. And then, of course, he wants to see it win.
I agree with you, man. I agree with that a lot. And he says, I reckon it's important as most animal farm investors are drippers, which I agree. And I also think a lot of the whales in the animal farm are people who have already, gotten rich from Forex's projects, from drip or reap, or, you know what I mean? So
everyone I know personally that's a whale in the animal farm made really good money in drip, and then just branched over because, so they own a ton of pigs, or they own, they got a big dog stake or tons of other stuff in the farms and pools. Almost every single person that I know personally made a bunch of money on the drip side, and now is just investing in the future projects, which is great, because if we can ever get drip to come back to a nice sustainable level, just from juicing it from some of these additional developments, not even considering down the road when we get into lending and everything, because once we get into lending and you can take loans off your assets and everything, it gets you into a structure where theoretically drip could last forever. It can't last forever now with no utility, because eventually, tokens get minted. There's a balance there where you can keep it alive for a while, and Drip has been super successful with that. But eventually you got to introduce utility. And then the utility has to be really great. Lending, of course, is one where you basically tie up the tokens. There's no reason to sell them. So theoretically, it could last forever.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. And one thing I want to kind of segue into is I know we're like a few months behind each other. Well, I'm a few months behind you when it comes to a couple of the projects me and you are both in when it comes to Max Wallets, Drip, and Furio. So I think Drip, you're what, February? Is that when your wallet hits?
Yeah, so I'm February. I've been DCAing a little bit just because I'm
itching for that Max wallet.
Yeah, I'm itching for that Max wallet. And then my buddy Lee, he keeps DCAing heavier.
Yeah, he's been going crazy.
He was like a little in front of me, and then I pulled a little bit ahead, and now he's in front of me. So now he's like 2 weeks in front of me. But yeah, roughly February 9th should be my day where I max this thing out, and I'm super excited for it. It's just going to be a nice, I don't know. So it's been a long road. It's been over a year for me. And so it'll be a total of 14 months, 15 months, something like that before I hit that Max wallet. And of course I put a lot of money into it, everything, and put a lot of time into all these videos. So it'll just be gratifying to get to that point. And I'm going to do the same thing as the whales. I mean, I think in the future, Drip is going to be worth more. So, of course, I already got other wallets set up. I'm going to feed those, just waiting for the future to see how this thing pans out. And then a lot of the rest of the money that I get from selling my maxed out wallet is just going to go into pigs. And I'm going to build it in the ecosystem over there. I mean, I think it's kind of what Forex designed it to do in a way, is churn money up, create wealth for you on some level. Then you can put over in the animal farm, which is a longer term, safer, lower yield deal. And if, Pigpen's going to kick out BUSD and then BNB from the dog pound. So you've got options there. But yeah, that's my goal. I'm super excited about it. But yeah, February. And then Furio's been like it's a little tougher for me to predict, because for a while there, I was going at 2.5. Then, they made all the contract changes. I was kind of like, okay, let me try to get my ROI back. So I've been doing that, but I've still been growing it pretty fast. I haven't just gone into drain mode. So I'm up to like 18,600 tokens right now. So I'm not, depending on what rate I keep it at, then I'm not too far out. So we'll see what happens there. So I think I'm probably, if I was to calculate it out, I'm growing this one a little faster than my Drip one. So they're probably going to max out right around the same time. So that'll be gratifying too.
That's pretty cool, because my first Drip and first Furio wallet is both maxing out in May. So I'm about 4 months, give or take. Now, the thing is, in my opinion, of course, I see Drip being here within that time. But with Furio, they've been able to be here so far. But again, it's kind of, in my opinion, it's kind of iffy. We don't know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Coming in the next 4 months.
I mean, the big thing for Furio, and I've been talking to some guys in like the big team leaders chat, the big thing for Furio, they've got a few pieces set up that should do well. They've got their Furio finance kind of after thing. It's similar to the animal farm, a way to earn yield from stable coins and stuff. Really solid, fully functional on its own. It's just a good way to earn yield. It's like, it's really a lot like the animal farm. You're farming the tokens, you put two stables together, you get a decent APR, and it's just super stable. You're just adding liquidity, so nothing complex there. And then their Furio pool, their liquidity pair there, that's doing well at like 66% APY, and so that's really solid. There'll be a lot of liquidity there. Their biggest issue right now that they need to figure out how to do is to show people that they're going to be around in 6 months. And so new users can come on and get excited about the protocol. And to do that, they got to move some things around. I mean, their casino basically is held up with regulatory stuff. They're still going to work on it, but and they think they'll get to it eventually. They'll actually get it across the finish line eventually, but it's not like an immediate thing. Their Fear bot, which a lot of people gave a pretty hard time, was basically back to break even, right? It was down like, I forget, $250,000 or whatever. And everyone's like, oh, it's amazing, lost that much money. And they're saying, hey, these are just the trading rules we've set for it. And over time it will perform. It's now back to break even, which hopefully now we'll start to see some upside, and that'll feed the LMS, which will make it last longer. So Furio still, it's on the ropes a bit, but I still think there's a possibility, if the team comes out hot this year, that it could still do really well. And even if the vault dies, technically the Furio and the Furio Finance kind of stablecoin deal could live on its own independently. So it's just kind of like, I don't like all the changes. You know, I don't mind like a change if they realize they made a mistake on something. You know, it's not a big deal, but you know, multiple moves of the LMS is not good. I mean, to me, I said it in my big long video where I kind of broke down everything I liked and disliked about everything that happened. It was like a 45-minute video. But to me, there never should have been an LMS. I mean, in theory, it's a fantastic idea. You know, if you can trap the price there, and if the Fearbot was already running and it was already feeding it, so the liquidity pool was just crazy deep, then you could technically peg to some sort of dollar value, but not in these markets. So I don't know. They should have probably just done away with the LMS, taken it away, and let the price ride up and down. You'd have pumps and dumps and people getting super excited and FOMOing in and then trying to bail out, and a lot of like back and forth FUD. But it you know, it's much better than dropping from 450 to 90 cents.
I agree, man. I agree. We got Lee in the house from Driptopian, likely
What's up?
MC, like. And so I want to get to a question real quick from Gabe C. And he says, do you think Drip can handle the next wave of max wallets come end of year and in 2024? Now, I'm gonna tackle it a little bit first, and then you can kind of tag in after that, Scott. But in my opinion, I think it can, but I also think a lot of it will depend on the community and also the additional utility that comes out for Drip itself. And so far we've shown that we have big whales in the system that's willing to continue to keep the golden goose afloat, right? So if another year comes and let's say we have no utility, which I don't see that happening, but let's say another year happens, right? We're on our way into 2024 and we don't really see any sufficient utility. What happens with Drip? Could it take a bigger hit? Absolutely. But I think we have a lot that will be out that will kind of subside some of those wallets, right? And like you said, once we get lending, if that comes out this year, scratchies and things of that nature, that will allow some of that buy pressure to go somewhere without having to just constantly dump the token. So a lot of it, I think, is the community sentiment and then also the utility that comes out in the future for this year.
Yeah. I think if we go another year without utility, then Drip won't die because it's a, you know, the way the smart contract's set up, but the price will be super low. A lot of people think it's uninvestable, and it will be so easy to speculate and come in and just buy a maxed wallet for a couple grand or a grand or whatever, and then just only drain from that point forward and hoping you get your money back. And then if there's ever an upside, then you get the upside. So there is a pivotal point where like, Drip will become uninvestable. That's if no utility comes out, because I've said it before, and I know there's other people who would disagree with me, but I don't think there's a daily ROI protocol on the planet that can survive without additional utility. I think they're good in the beginning. They flash out high APRs. Even 1% is a high APR. It gets people excited. It gets them into it. They start churning the money, but then eventually you hit maxed wallets, and if you don't have a real strong community behind it, then people start to fall off, and then the project falls apart. And we saw that over and over again last year, especially the good ones, especially in between the 4 and like 7-8 month range, where they did really well, they were strong, and then they started to show some cracks, and then eventually the community gives up. That's the one thing that the Drip community has going for it, is they're just a bunch of diehards. You know what I mean? Some of them aren't going anywhere. There's a 1 cent Drip. They're buying truckloads of it, and so that doesn't happen in most of the protocols. So I think for that reason I think that's the reason why Drip's alive today, is because there's a lot of people that are diehards. But we would be in a terrible spot if we went another 12 months with no utility. I mean, that'd be crazy, and it would look terrible on Forex's part and all that type of stuff. I really don't think that's going to happen. The new devs that he has hired, they are solid. They're a solid team. So I do think the UIs come in and all that. And I think there's going to be some stuff developed this year. Almost guarantee it's all going to be late just because that's the precedent we've set. But it will come out this year. Drip will start to go back up, and we'll find a new floor and a more reasonable range. And then eventually down the road, once lending really comes into play and he figures out how to orchestrate that, that will change the price of Drip significantly, because the need to sell it will almost completely disappear. So the liquid supply will drop drastically.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. We just had to tackle it though, man, because I mean it's a legitimate question.
It is, yeah. I mean, here's the thing. We didn't do anything for drip last year. Pretty much it was all really about the animal farm. We had a lot of team issues, internal team issues, and all that. So we didn't really get anywhere with drip last year. And all the projections that we had that we were all making early on in the year was like, okay, if Scratchy comes out in July, then I'm seeing a roughly this boost, and then we get a layer 2. If none of that happens, your predictions don't mean anything, which is of course what we saw. So I do think he had to completely revamp the team and try to get, people that work well with him and get all that stuff orchestrated. Now that it sounds like that is done, we should start seeing fairly regular updates. And frankly, people are so used to delays with Forex. If it's a couple months late, we're going to be used to it. But as long as we're seeing like a fresh new UI and you got some fresh stuff to talk about, the price will increase because people will realize, like I said, that the project isn't abandoned. We just had to take a little hiatus.
I agree, man. I agree. Well spoken. And so disrespectfully classy Mark Blassie. That's a hell of a name.
That is for sure.
So he says, I'm guessing he's meaning Furio versus Piston token. This I'm gonna leave alone because I never invested in Piston. I'm aware of the project, but never invested in it. Did you get in Piston at all, Scott?
I did. Yeah, I got in Piston. I think on day one. And I'm not the best person to answer this, but I will say Furio, even though they're the same. They both made a bunch of changes to the contract. The biggest issue for me with Piston, and I know there's people who worked around it. I didn't play it right, and so maybe I'm the person to blame for this. But basically, all I did, I got in on day one. All I did was compound, and they've got a thing where it gets you to a certain point where you can only 5x or whatever max out. So once at the point that I got to the end of my wallet and I was really only going to claim from that point forward, or I could add additional funds, they made a ton of changes. And the changes that they made basically made it to where if I was taxed so much higher if I was claiming or compounding or whatever. So I couldn't really compound anymore. So I had to claim. So my claim tax after like 2 claims is up to 75%. So for me, the only way for me to actually have Piston end up doing well for me was for me to dump in a bunch more money, and I didn't like the changes. So I've just basically taken that one as an L, and I've been pulling my money. But I do know some people like Crypto Phil who, continued to DCA in and got himself out in front of it. And he's in a really good position because of how their tokenomics work or whatever. So for me, I could have probably made it work and liked it more if I was willing to throw in a few extra thousand to get myself back out in front so I could continue to do it. It just happened that I hit my 5x on my wallet at the exact time they made a bunch of changes. So my choice was to claim and just get murdered or put in a bunch more money. Kind of chalked a lot of that up to a loss.
I got you. Makes sense. And this is interesting here because I got a little bit to say. Everything went downhill when they started claiming to be king. I never understood why so many people feel the need to go against drip. Now, I think there's a lot of different reasons that you can say. One, you have people they like to diversify, which is completely okay. 2, you have people that there's a new project that's out. They feel they can do better than the project that's been out. 3, you have people that just are against the project, right? Against the project, maybe against the developer, the community, right? And some of that I will say is because of how strong the community is. And take this with a grain of salt, but it almost is, in a sense, kind of the mentality of drip community is kind of like a cult. And I think it's good and bad. The reason why I say that is the good side to that is I don't think drip will still be here if the community wasn't like that, wasn't as strong.
True.
Now, to the other side of that, the cult side, it kind of gives people a bad taste in their mouth that's not already in the ecosystem, right? It kind of deters them away because people are like, it's only drip. And so when you only say that, it kind of makes people rub them the wrong way. So I think it's good and bad to have that. And what do you think about that?
Yeah, man. I was actually I got a couple points. Throw that comment back up again.
I got you, man. I got you.
So one, none of the dev team ever said anything about that. No one on the Furio team ever said they were king or better than Drip or whatever. I talked to those guys all the time. One of the devs in particular, and he always had fond things to say. I mean, he would like point out like a couple things like here or there that, you know, Drip struggled with or whatever, that they were trying to like make an effort to do better, but it was always in like very spoke very fondly of Forex and what he was able to do. So all that stuff and that narrative was hyped up by other YouTubers who hated Forex because he delayed, and they thought he had some conspiracy theory about how it was this long rug pull that he was doing or whatever. Like, anyway, that's nonsense. So all that came from the YouTubers. None of that stuff came from the direct team. So they never claimed to be king.
I will say this though, before you continue, like to piggyback what you said, I completely agree. But I will say, I think when that sentiment is put out there, because if you go in some of the Telegram chats, right?
Yeah.
That talk is there. Well, I feel like, in my opinion, if it's brought into your community, it's up to the leaders of that project to nip that in the bud. And if you allow it to go on, in my opinion, you're somewhat a part of that narrative that's being put out there, because you're not stopping it when it comes to your community.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think those guys kind of let the chats run, and it very much became an us versus them for like there's just Forex turned a lot of people off when, you know, he had a bunch of delays, and there was plenty of things that he did that I was critical of. You know, what it just is what it is. But some people, they like take it personally, and they got to create a bunch of hateful videos thinking and just coming up with these theories that he's stealing all the money. And none of it made any sense. But anyway, of course, that's going to piss off the people on the Drip side because they're really pro Forex and everything. But you're 100% right. I was just talking about this with Lee. You know, the cult following that Drip has is the reason it's alive. You're completely right there. It's also the reason that other projects tangle with them. Like, for most Drip people, it's Forex projects or nothing. Like, if you mention anything else, they hate each other. You know what I mean? So I think that kind of tribalism and territorialism is kind of common. Some people, like I personally, like, I want to do whatever projects make me money. If Forex does something that I don't like, I'll be critical of him. Like, I'm gonna be nice about it. I'm not gonna be a dick. I'm certainly not gonna come up with elaborate theories that I have absolutely no proof of and try to spread them around. Same thing with the Furio team. I mean, I smoked those guys on a couple of videos. I was pretty frustrated about the changes and just kind of gave my 2 cents. And I smoked them in the private chats where I would, you know, send a voice message directly to them and saying, "Hey man, what's up with this? Why'd you approach it from that angle? Why'd you basically insinuate that it was the investors' fault for taking their money out for the price increase?" You know, so I could be critical of those people and still want to make money in both projects. And I think a lot of people, I don't know, for me personally, been in the finance game for a while, made money in a lot of different categories. And I'm just not a big fan of like picking one horse and just putting all my eggs in that basket and turning a blind eye to every other project that's out there. Because there's talented developers in every sector. And so hopefully, my hope is that one day these guys realize that they're not actually at war with each other, and we're all kind of a DeFi community, maybe work together a little bit and, you know, stop being so us versus them mentality.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe 3 to 4 weeks ago, I put out a video, and I briefly mentioned in that video that we should be helping each other, because the longevity of these projects helps out the entire DeFi space and allows it to grow. It allows it to bring more people in. So like when we're competing against each other, I think in normal sports, in the sport world, that's great. But when you're talking about the DeFi space, I think positive competitiveness is great, but I think when it gets toxic, it hurts the entire ecosystem, the entire industry. So I think that's well said on that.
I think so too. And I think being in a bear market is bad enough, but then DeFi's also got a bad name because we've got a lot of rug pulls and then just a lot of failed projects. So everyone wants to stay away from it. And then if those guys dive into any of these chats, they realize all these guys are being ticky tacky and hating the other projects or whatever. It's just an immature like experience. So, you know, if I'm a multimillionaire and I'm looking to get into this new space because I'm willing to roll the dice and take some risks on a new sector, kind of a, you know, just in smart contracts and daily ROI dApps. If I'm a guy like that and I'm jumping in some of these chats, I'm thinking these are just kids. You know, this isn't my world. I'll wait until it gets more developed. So hopefully people start to work together. Developers realize it doesn't always have to be a battle. We can have friendly competitions. Like some of them are kind of funny. Like lately, I enjoy the banter between Bank Teller and Forex a little bit, right? Like, you know, they had a beef a while back, and it sounds like Bank Teller didn't want to work with Forex. Forex was a little jaded with that. Like, you know, I don't know. He didn't treat him very well in that interaction from what I've heard. And so it came around and Forex ended up maybe being the better developer and the more successful projects. And so Forex has kind of let that go, but they still chop at each other here and there. And then you've got guys like ฎ and stuff that, you know, throw a little bit of shade on Bank Teller and everything. I think that's hilarious. And it's all kind of been good fun. That stuff's okay. Like there's some rivalry there.
Yeah.
And, you know, and lately it's just kind of been funny. They'll throw shade a little bit here and there at each other. I think that's a reasonable level. But where people are just like trying to bury another project, not realizing that, like, okay, there's a bunch of people that are in both projects. Like you're trying to, you know, burn your neighbor's bag. Like, why would you do that? Like, it just doesn't make sense. I want to make a bunch of money. And if someone's in a project that I don't even like, I hope they kill it, because, you know what I mean? Like, why would I want to prey on their downfall? I don't know. It's a concept that's foreign to me.
I agree, man. I agree. Gabe C, and we kind of covered this, but what are your expectations for this upcoming VC, and what are you hoping to hear? Well, I mean, we know he should be talking about the new Drip UI, I had it up here earlier. New Drip UI.
New Drip UI. I've got it here. New Drip UI, fiat on ramp, and then
cross-chain functionality.
Yeah. And then, you know, he went on to basically say it sounds like they're doing something with the stablecoin pairs in the farm, so they're going to migrate those, and then also in some of the chats, he just also said that, hey, we will address some drip stuff too, so it's not going to be animal farm only. So I think we'll get maybe more updated timelines. I'm not sure that anything's ready to drop right now, but we expected to see the new Drip UI and stuff like that middle of the month. So let's just say end of the month, right? Sometime in January, we should see those. So I'm betting that he's going to float out some potential dates there, and you know, give us some cool updates of stuff they're working on. Forex always has a bright idea, and when he talks like this, and when in his calls chat, he's normally like pumped about some things that he wants to drop. So I think that's what we'll hear.
Yeah, and earlier he said in December, when he made the announcement, he said mid-January, he did say he wanted the new UI and the fiat on-ramp to be launched at the same time. So I don't know if that's still the case, but hopefully that is, and we'll hear a little bit more on that.
For sure. Yeah, I'm just looking to get the new UI. I mean, the fiat on-ramp, I feel like is a cool long-term thing, but I don't think it's going to bring too much. I would be fine if they launched it without it right now. Most people that are in Drip are already in it, and they're, you know, they found a way to onboard their fiat. I was going to ask you, have you tried out that Spritz finance?
I haven't, man. I watched your video on it, man.
Yeah.
Is it pretty cool?
It's amazing. Yeah. I just transferred some money to my bank account too. And I paid a couple other bills, and it's gone through. It's just slick. And I paid whatever bill, and I ended up getting that $50. So they'll match a $10 payment. And then once you've made a payment of over 50, they send you another 50. So I've already got $60 back with them just to like make a couple payments. And then the CEO did reach out to me on my video, commented on my video, and said, "Hey man, thanks for making this video. It's awesome." So trying to get in communication with him and see how that goes. But so far, I mean, gosh, I hope it lasts, but that's the best tool I've ever seen in the crypto world as far as getting bills paid or offboarding with ease. Just, I mean,
is there like
in a few clicks, everything
like a small
integrates.
additional fee with it when you do it, or is it just?
Yeah, it's just a tiny fee. I mean, I spent, I don't know, $2 to send a $60 payment or $70 payment or something the other day. So it's, you know, there's a little fee that goes along with it, but just the convenience, and you're going to pay that anyway by transferring stuff, you know, around across the chain. And it's like it's very much a like an application you'd use in the real world, not like a crypto application, which sometimes they don't communicate well because they speak different languages. When you set everything up, it integrates your bank account super easy, and it integrates your credit card super easy, real similar to if you go set up something in the real world where it doesn't even really like ask you what your passwords are, it just integrates on what's been preloaded and everything. So the process was cake, and all my payments are going through. So for the time being, I'm gonna tout that as one of my favorite. I want them to sponsor my videos.
That'll be dope, man. Yeah. I think you're on your way for it, man, because it also turned out pretty well, it seemed like, with your community. So yeah, if y'all watching
cool.
this, hit Scott up, man. Hit him up.
Yeah, try that out. Seriously, it's cool. I don't care whose referral link you use. I'm stoked about it, and I get stoked about stuff, but it's a game changer. And I know a lot of people in the community have been hitting me up or shooting me Telegram messages saying, I just used it. My payment just posted. This is awesome. So try it. Yeah. Try it out when you get a chance, even just do one test build payment.
Yeah. And we need Spritz in the EU.
Oh yeah.
So yeah.
It's not in Europe right now. So right now it's US, and there may be another country or two, but it sounds like
they're US based, I'm guessing.
They're branching out. Yeah.
Yeah. So, man, other thing I want to kind of talk about, we probably run another 15 minutes, give people time to get to the AMA for live, is I noticed you started talking a little bit more about Degen plays, or if you will, quote unquote gamble plays, right? Which are even more riskier than just flat DeFi. However, you can still make some money from it if you do it right. So kind of talk to me, like, is this something that was new for you coming into this year? Because of course I know you're using risk capital, and so was it like, hey, I'm investing in projects I think that can be here long term, but when it comes to some of these Degen plays, some of these gamble plays, I'm going to take a little bit more of a risk because I think I can make a little bit more money? Was that kind of your mindset moving forward with that, or talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, a bit of a progression for me, because all my initial plays when I got into DeFi were all Degen plays, all different miners and different stuff like that. Short-term thinking, right? I got burnt on the first couple because I didn't realize like how unstable they really were, and then got the rhythm down, and then made good money on several of them too. And so I just figured out how to play those short-term ones, try to figure out when the launch date was so I could be first in, first out, all that type of style. And then I started to get introduced to drip, and I wish I would have got in drip when it was $7-8, because that's when my friends were like, hey, check this out, I just got in. And I was thinking, they were like, hey, it's 1% per day. I'm like, I'm making 4% per day over here. Like, I'm not going to do that for the same risk, right? It's going to take me 100 days to ROI. I don't think it'll last that long, but it's because I hadn't looked into it. I just was doing the math on 1%. So it took me a while to get in a drip. I ended up getting it at 50 instead of, $7 or whatever. But so then I went over and I started doing more long-term plays. I still had a couple Degen plays that I was doing, but I wasn't doing any videos on it because I knew they were risky. And then I spent the bulk of the last year doing these longer term plays that I think are going to be around for a while. And there's just a way to play them. Like I'm fine. I don't worry about whether I'm going to see the drip website tomorrow morning or not. I know it's going to be there. And the Animal Farm website, like, I know what price range everything's going to be in. Like, that's really predictable. So I've figured out how I want to play all the long-term ones too. So really, I'm just cycling back. This year, I wanted to double down on creating more content and just getting some more videos out there. Ask the community, hey, if I make videos on other stuff, are you guys going to be interested in it? And a lot of people said, yeah, do it. We'd love to just see some other projects. So I'm just really tying in some of my long-term plays with these shorter-term plays. And I'm just trying to get across that, like, they're risky. This is risk capital only. Try to get in early, ROI, and then the rest is play money, so that's my ultimate goal with these. I'm not gonna, there's some good projects that people keep sending me, but they've been around for a little while, and even though they might be good, I'm just hesitant to do that, to get in late. I've made that mistake in the past. Now, some of them may last a long time, but I don't know that for sure, so I'm just playing the odds. So most of the stuff I'm going to get into will have launched within the past 4 weeks, and I'll give it a go and see if I can get my ROI, and I'll just record my journey. So it's really just about me creating some additional content. I mean, if Forex was dropping something new every few weeks, then I would have plenty of stuff to talk about, but there's been a delay. So I can make a couple of videos a week, but I can't make a video every day saying the same thing. So I've been trying to sprinkle in some other content, learn some other platforms. It's been nice because I've actually been getting connected with some other developers and other people in the space. So I've been talking to them on the back end. So I'm developing a better network in the DeFi space, which is helpful. So if I've got questions about how something works or whatever, like I just go to them and ask, and they're awesome. So it's been super helpful. So for me, it's part of a learning experience. And then I'm just trying to figure out how to spit that out on camera so everyone else can kind of take that ride with me. So multifaceted approach for the reason why I'm doing it. But yeah, a lot of it's just content, trying some new things, learning some new stuff. And it seems like people are pretty receptive to it. I get some comments that say I should only do stuff about Forex projects or this or that, or just want to talk trash about whatever project. Like, dude, these are Degen plays. Like if you don't have the appetite for that risk, then just skip this one.
Yeah, I agree, man. I agree. And I think also, like, with us being in the bear market, it's a little bit harder for potential investors to get in newer projects, right? Because everything has been going down. Whereas if we were in a bull market or headed at least into a bull market, people would be a lot more receptive to try to gamble. Because if you think about it, it's a lot more FOMO at that point. You know, people are seeing everyone. I mean, at that point, you don't even really have to be a good investor to make money in a bull market.
It's pretty much anything. Yep.
And it's going to go up. And so with us being in this kind of a market, which I think 2023 is still going to be a sideways year, in my opinion. I think at the earliest we see a bull market end of 2024, which will be after the Bitcoin halving, right? But I think that's the earliest. But in my opinion, I think 2025 is when we will actually see the next full on bull run. I think 2024 we will start to see things moving up. You know what I mean? Have kind of bottomed out and move up, but I don't think we will actually see that full bull run. Because if we think about it, a bull run is only 27 days to 30 days from the top to dropping back, if you really think about it, if it's not a double top or anything like that. So I mean, that's really not a lot of time to, you know, make that much money if you're not doing it right, or if you're not already in position and have been accumulating during this time.
Yeah, I think those are good predictions. I'd say there's a couple, like in my opinion, there's like a couple of caveats, and I'd say one, probably going to be a really sideways year, but I could see different assets performing a lot better than others as they absorb other stuff, right? So like as everything else is falling, a lot of people don't want to move that money out of crypto for a lot of reasons. Some of those are tax reasons. Some of those are just, you know, it's tough to get it out of the space. There's like a lot of reasons. I think some of that money may move into the stronger assets. So BNB could have a killer year while everything else gets crushed. Bitcoin could, you know, balance out and do a little bit better. So I think you may see some divergence with some of these smaller coins that actually have really good utility, and namely BNB, just because it seems like everything around it is crumbling and it's just ivory tower on the hill. So I think you could still see some shining lights, but mostly sideways, and especially for Bitcoin. 2024, I agree. Halving, I think, is when everything kind of starts to perk back up again because Bitcoin drives the market. Now, the one thing that makes me think, let's see, when is the election? I'm trying to balance all this out. The one thing that makes me think that that we may see a catalyst for another boom would be some sort of regulation coming in end of 2023 or sometime in 2024 that would allow big institutions to invest in crypto. And all of a sudden, since we're sitting at a bottom, these institutions come in with billions of dollars and invest in these undervalued assets, and then it sparks the bull market because of the regulation. But the regulation will also have some negative side effects too. But so I could see big institutions front running the next bull run and really causing it based on regulation, which allows them to come into it. So that's my possibility theory.
Yeah. And I mean, the truth is, I mean, we really don't know, but we're going off of our research, our experience, history, you know, things that's happened in the past to try to make an educated prediction, right? And so I agree with that as well. In my opinion, I could see regulation making a dip and then going up. Because I think some people would be afraid of certain regulation coming in because we got a lot of the CBDCs that are coming into effect this year and in 2024, which I think will affect the market somewhat not good until things kind of blow over, in my opinion.
I agree. What I'm saying is, I think if that happens, those institutions will short it, drive the price down, have everything dip, and they'll buy up a bunch of cheap assets and then spark everything back up because they'll own, a large portion of them. But the regulation thing is an interesting crux because there's gonna be some positive effects to it, but there's gonna be a lot of negative effects. And so I'm super anti CBDC, and I don't think there's much positive that's going to happen from that on an individual level. I think the market could go up once people understand that the adoption isn't as hard as they made it seem. But I think for long term, it's just a control mechanism, and it's not like the government's going to come out and say, "Hey, we're going to show you our wallet address, and so you can see what money we're actually sending to Ukraine, and everything's tied up in here, and we can't mint additional tokens." It's not going to happen. They're just going to use it as a way to control humans. So it sucks.
Yeah, it's kind of the name of the game, right? Kind of the name of the game.
Yeah.
We got a few other questions here. Not questions, but kind of statements. One question I did want to ask you, Scott, and this is about another DeFi project. Did you ever get into EMP?
I didn't get into EMP, and I looked into it a while back. I liked it, and I like what's his name?
AJ.
You did an AMA with him.
AJ,
yeah. AJ's a stud and nice guy, and I know that they're really pro drip guys too. I think I forget what happened when it launched. Like, I don't think I had too much free capital, and so once I looked into it, I kind of brushed it off. But I've got nothing but good things to say about EMP in general.
Okay, I was just curious, man. I was curious.
Yeah, how you so far?
I would say it's held up. It's held up. I would say the NFTs that they just launched are doing not too bad.
Yeah,
that's cool. Why I kind of asked. Yeah,
you like get a series of NFTs and all that, right? I've been seeing some of it, which is cool.
Yeah, so I purchased 5 of them, and basically they pay you out in EMP and ETH. And so, say you just want to grow your ETH back, easy way to grow it, right? And you can just let it accumulate instead of having to, claim or compound every day, because with EMP, it recycles back into the lottery pool for the biggest depositor. So it doesn't go to waste, but it goes to whoever has that lottery. But with the NFTs, you could let it sit for a month, whatever, and then just let it accumulate. So I really like that aspect of it.
That's cool. I like that passive aspect of it, because it's that's one thing that's kind of frustrating, is we're trying to create passive income over here, but especially when you're a YouTuber, it's anything but passive. You're answering questions, you got your group and they need help, and so it ends up being a full-time job and a lot less passive. But that's how we learn.
For sure, man. Well, first and foremost, I want to say thanks for coming on to the show. This is the second episode of the DeFi Passive Income Hour. I want to thanks for everyone in the live chat for commenting, tuning in, showing us that love and support. I know we got about 7 minutes or so until the Forex AMA with Drip. So I know a lot of people is excited for that. I'm excited to hear that as well. I am about to head to the gym though, so I'll probably have to catch the rerun on it. So
nice. Well, thanks for having me on, man. This is the shortest we've ever talked. So so we'll see how that goes, but it'll be cool to hear the Forex AMA. And then I wish he would have done it yesterday, because we could have been talking about those fresh updates. But we'll do this again. We'll do this again soon.
For sure, man. Let me know when you want me to come on the channel again. I know you just had that big show with 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, man. So shout out to you on that. I know that's not easy to get. Definitely when you look at like the size of the channels, because I mean, in my opinion, to be over 5K is still a huge milestone. But then when you look at someone who has 180 plus, you're like, damn, all right. So to see that collaboration, dude, I think is great for the crypto space. And then, I mean, of course, good for you.
Yeah, for sure. It was good. And shout out to my admin, 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. She helped set that up, and it was fantastic. But she was a little tense during it. A lot of people even commented like she seemed tense. She had some stuff going on, but she did hit me up after. I am going to go on her show later this month, so that'll be nice. A little more exposure. She'll be in a better mood and everything. And we can talk about some of the more general crypto knowledge and all the current events and everything that are going on. So I'm excited about that. It's cool to get her on. It's cool to blend over some of those channels, and hopefully some of those people. She's real conservative, but hopefully some of those people, they've got a appetite for risk that's similar to ours, and so we'll get some more eyes on the projects that we like.
Sounds good, man. Well, once again, thanks for coming on. And if you missed the episode, the playback will be available. So give it a few minutes, and you'll be able to watch that here in a minute. So Scott, thanks again for coming on, man. I know it's late, but I've already said it. But Happy New Year again to everybody. We're now in 2023, and we're wishing all positivity and success for everybody.
All right, thanks, man. Take care.
All right.